Welcome. My name is Pearring. We are going to do a short little asana sequence that hopefully can be used and support a lot of fun, challenging, advanced postures. We'll start in a low lunge, so bring 1 foot forward, and I recommend having your 2 blocks there for you and perhaps an extra padding for under the knee as we make transitions. Whichever foot you want to have come forward, feel free to place the blocks as high as you'd like. And start by actually moving your lunge a little forward and back. So you can bend deeper through the front leg, you can take your knee forward, you can come off your front heel, you can come off to the tippy toes and the back foot, and as you come back, you could keep the knee deeply bent and round off of the heel. You could also straighten the leg a bit more and play with that movement across that space. In the back leg, of course, the heel doesn't come down in the same way, but maybe you'll notice you'll go from the tips of the toes towards the mounds, right where the mounds start to meet the arch. Just do a few times that way, playing with it. This is one of my favorite ways to warm up. It starts to really turn on or refresh. So we get so much feedback from our feet and how they push onto the earth. How we used closed chain in so much, even just putting the hands in the block, we have an end point for our hands. Then try even bending your knees and just sensing what would happen if you let your hips come down a little lower. Do you come off the front heel? Does your back thigh drop? Does your front hip crease get all the weight? See if you can keep pushing your feet down, letting the front knee bend and the back heel go back, but stay standing in your feet. Don't drop the weight into the underside of your pelvis. Switch sides. Bending and straightening, perhaps, or just finding this movement roll from the heel towards the toes and back again. This is going to give us a turning on. It's like we're going to get all the systems in a go, ready to go by turning on the soles of the feet in this way. So it's towards the tips of the toes and also the backs of the mounds, and feel that on the back leg. Careful for hiking the knee up very high, and instead really round towards the mounds. Find where they start to become part of the arch. Good, and then again, with a nice deep knee bend, some weight still in your hands, pulse down a little and just notice anything that tends to drop to where you're standing in your hips. And you want to just keep standing on your feet, even as the hips come lower. Good. And then switch again. This time we'll creep up into side angle pose. You can leave the block there. So it's ready for the hand if you decide to take your hand down, other hand to your hip. Spin your front palm up and slightly bend the front knee a little bit more. This is a great way to stay with what we've been doing, tracking through the foot, through the front and the back of the foot, as well as starting to inch the back leg further back. Again, we don't want to drop to where we're not standing on our feet. So make sure you stand on your feet throughout. And then we're going to use this back hand to find the range in the hips. So some of us will really pull up into the outer hip. Some of us will collapse into the outer hip. So how much can you lift the hip into your back hand, but also let the hip settle in? Try that at rib height. Do you tend to carry yourself in the side ribs? Just feeling out that range there. At some point you would collapse too far down, some point you'd hike up too much. Can your hand help? Last one at the side of the head. So any picking up there, any releasing down. Keep your bottom palm spun up so the bottom shoulder doesn't collapse. Just feeling that out. Where is that space? And then take the arm alongside your ear. Good. And then go ahead and come down with the back knee. Just to shift that a little bit, turn inside your front foot. Spin, spin, spin. Again, press the front knee a little forward. Feel that tracking to the front and the back of the feet. Keep waking up, drawing into yourself. Are we doing what we think we are doing through the practice? Is a really lovely question. And let the push into the earth give you a lot of feedback. You could play with it here. How much does the hip hike out? How much does the low belly draw inward? Ribs to the side. You take the block lower and out. You can take it more into the side bend, side plank, right? And then also head somewhere inside of there. Not forcing anything, just getting curious and letting the feedback of your other hand show you. Top arm alongside your ear, perhaps. Good. And then again, switch sides. Up into side angle. So, let the front knee bend forward. See if that tension is like pulling two ends of a string. If in any place you get too loose, right, the string is not gonna sound properly, or too tight, too tense in any area. Find that movement on your feet, and then palm up helps to keep this underside long. Top hand onto that hip. Just let it move. Feel how much you can push your hip to your hand to your hip. Notice how much that has everything to do with the bend of the front leg. Ribs, do they hike? Do they want to try to pick you up out of your legs? Where in there is that length through the side body? And then head. One side, we tend to have more of the idea that we're going to lift from a shortening in the neck. And where is that positioning? How do we find our way through? Top arm alongside your ear. Good. And then again, releasing hand down, back, knee down. Twist it away. Turn inside your front leg. Just to reveal the other side, you're welcome to take the block in the hand further out. How much does the pelvis come down? Can you still stand in your feet? Hip, ribs, and head. Take the top arm alongside your ear. And again, release. All right, let's switch. One more time, and this is gonna set us up. There's so many places you can go from here, but I'll invite something I hope that is fun. This last time, we're gonna invite it towards triangle pose. So again, the blocks can stay. You can take them higher. Back heel spins down. To come into it, first come up. And here's just another place to notice. If we bring that back hip in, right, we're not at the waistline trying to push squishy waist forward. We're really finding that outer hip. It'll help bend the front knee. But again, we don't want to drop into the inner thigh, so the inner thigh also lifts. There's all these ways that we can use feedback, right? If we need a little bit more inner spiral or inner rotation of the back leg, you'll notice because the knee will knock in. That's the back thigh rotating in to free up the knee in this forward plane. So you could take it into a reverse warrior. Even maybe pull elbows apart, right? Really see how the ribs and the throat and the neck have something to do with this too. And then as you come up, straightening your front leg into triangle. So there's often two ways of doing this. It's very easy to lose the outer hip coming in. And in that way, we almost lose the action of the front leg as well. We lean into the back of the leg without any action available to us under here. So let that outer hip come in just enough to really stand in the front foot. You can do hand on the side ribs, right? You can do hand on the side of the head, and then arm alongside your ear, not into your ear, alongside. And if you can really find and feel this out, use all this reflecting, it makes it much easier for the bottom arm to come up alongside as well. Good. And release. And just for fun, hand to the floor. Walk your other leg halfway back. Come to just a nice side plank variation and push on that foot and spin your chest up. Good. Coming back down with the knee. Switch sides. So coming first to side angle, from side angle up, we'll take it into reverse warrior. So even finding and feeling this connection, outer hip to outer hip. This is duality in motion, right? One thing affects another thing. How much, too little, too much. All of this balancing. But ultimately what we want to feel is we get clear about the awareness piece. Are we doing what we think we're doing? Where are we in time and space? How much feedback do we have? So at some point that we can start to feel, I'm going to go longer, I can feel it, that we can play with, really center within ourselves, not getting shoved up or dropping down, but really play and centered within ourselves. Coming up, triangle. So some of us, we stay too hiked up, right? We need to also make sure that the top of the thigh is able to settle back, and then the outer hip comes in. So this play here, you can even imagine it on your feet, forward and back, finding it through the rib height. The length of the underside will start to reveal itself more, right? So we're not caught up in the top side. And then even hand on the side of the head. I can always feel which side my head thinks it has to pick up my whole body from. Arm alongside the ear. And feeling that out, how that you stand in your feet, front and back of the feet, and maybe the bottom arm is able to come up. Right, and allow yourself to have a clearer side and a less clear side. It's all part of the play. As the back knee comes down, I'm actually going to move the blocks, give myself room. Back knee hand comes, foot walks back. You could keep the back knee down and play with turnings again inside, or you can come to the pinky edge. Just a little play. And in the side plank, it's very similar, right? Do the hips drop when we try to lift from our ribs? You know, finding our way through the pose till it becomes a centered positioning within ourselves. Are we doing what we think we're doing? Are we where we think we are? Good. And release. All right, so what I had in mind to play with, in some ways we're working towards Ardha Chandrasana variations, but I wanted to take it from dancer's pose into Ardha Chandra Chapasana, which means adding on an element where we need this reflection and this feedback from the bottom leg, because we're going to go from, say, with our hip turned more forward out into the side. And if we can have this bent knee and this little bit of reflection here, right, we'll be able to reposition over time how we get from facing one direction to facing another direction. So you go from there down towards hand on the block. Okay, and then you just take a few breaths there. Again, toes to heels, moving up through the pose. And then imagine, often the knee gets propped too high or it falls down and it pulls you off your bottom leg. So see if you can feel that balance so that you're centering in your hips through your ribs and your head. Because then over time, this can become a bound pose where the bottom hand can find also the foot behind you. And then from there, coming back up again to Natarajasana. So that's a little play that I thought of. There's so many ways, right, to take any of the self-awareness, the inquiry, the feedback that is reflected to us through the asana practice into creative exploration of shape and self. So glad to be together. Thank you for your attention and time.